Am I the jerk for buying my special needs sibling an expensive bicycle? My brother is 32 years old and has special needs. He is also tall, around 6 feet 1 inch. For the most part, I do not involve myself in my family's life or business due to having an adversarial relationship growing up. I was allowed to leave at 8 years old to live with an aunt, and, from then on, barely kept in touch with my birth parents and stepfather. Due to my brother being rough on things, my parents basically bought him used bicycles or store brands. They were lucky if they lasted the summer, or in some cases, a day or two. Cheap bikes were not worth fixing, so they got thrown out most of the time. My sister did the math, and in 1 year they spent $470 on used bikes. During that time, I was spending $12,000 on show bicycles and customs. I always offered to buy him a nice bike, but my parents always shot the idea down, saying it would look bad if I bought one brother a $500 BMX, while everyone else rode cheap bikes. I stopped pushing the issue after that. Now that we are adults and my mom is on her own, she was able to buy him one nice bike that lasted for some years, which shocked me because it was a Walmart Huffy. The bike is now 5 years old, and the frame cracked from riding it like a BMX. My mom wanted to get him another store brand bike with my brothers and sister all pitching in to get him a $200 bike that did not look durable or his size. I told her I already bought him a $600 adult BMX because it is easier to fix and repair, and it was already on its way to her. She thanked me for the gesture and ended the conversation. 20 minutes later, I received criticism from all the siblings about why I did something without involving them, as they all wanted to buy him a bike as a group for his birthday in August. He needs the bike now, not on his birthday. I told them I would be glad to take $80 cash from each of them to cover the price. They all protested the idea and said I should have picked a cheaper bike. I told them he still needs a helmet and lights, but that seemed to upset them more. I basically told them the bike has been bought. They can figure out what else to get him on his birthday, and I hung up. Am I the asshole for wanting to make sure my brother has a good bike for once? You are not in the wrong here. Your intentions were good, even if the timing and method surprised your siblings. It's understandable they might feel left out, but your brother's comfort and enjoyment matter most. You did something really nice for him, and hopefully, they'll come around eventually. Am I the jerk for no longer wanting my mother-in-law to cook my family meals once a week? My mother-in-law watches my wife and my daughter after my daughter gets home from school a few days a week. We are very grateful for the support. For 4 years now, 1 day a week, my mother-in-law creates a dinner meal around 1 or 2 p.m. meant to be baked in the oven for 30 minutes when my wife and I get home around 5 p.m. My mother-in-law picks the meal, buys ingredients, and prepares it on her own. I think that is very thoughtful, and originally it was great while my wife and I were still adjusting to life with a toddler, so we did not have to worry about coming up with a dinner 7 nights a week. The problem is these dinners my mother-in-law makes are not usually good. 1 out of 10 of them is good or okay. 2 out of 10 are met but still edible. 7 out of 10 of them are usually bad. When I say bad, I find myself picking at it and not eating much. I notice my wife doing the same. Often 75% of this dish is getting tossed in the garbage. Usually the texture is bad due to how it is prepared, and the cuts of meat are the lowest quality with unchewable fatty bits in it, and it just tastes off. Other ingredients are cheap off-brand ingredients. For example, she is finding things like a pasta sauce brand at dollar stores that no one has ever heard of and just tastes bad. Since the meals are getting made in advance, often the middle of the dish is getting overly soft and mushy, while the outside might get overly dry and crispy due to getting cooked in the oven. Between my daughter now being older and having more sports or activities nights where we do not do a sit-down dinner, my mother-in-law's dinner, maybe eating out or taking out once a week, and being busy with things on the weekend, it makes it more difficult to have flexibility on making a nice dinner. Some weeks the only chance we get to have a sit-down dinner is the mother-in-law dinner, which ends up being bad. I would prefer to use that opportunity to cook something of normal quality. When my wife asked me about this, I was honest and basically said that I am not really into the mother-in-law meals, and also now that our daughter is older. Maybe it is time that we politely decline these meals because I feel bad about wasting my mother-in-law's time, money, and energy by cooking these only to throw it away. My wife lost it. Per my wife, I am cold for even thinking this way. She asked, "Who else do we have that is bringing us cooked meals each week?" My counterpoint is we do not need anyone bringing us meals, and does my mother-in-law know that we are barely eating this food and just throwing it away? I would take no pleasure in telling my mother-in-law that we are no longer interested in this help, but I would do it gently and tactfully, like reminding her about the history of how and why it started. But now things are running smoother, and we would like to have more flexibility on cooking our own meals. I would not get into the food quality part and be sure to thank her for her kindness, which I often thank her for when I see her, by the way. So am I the asshole here for wanting more flexibility on meals and not wanting to eat around subpar meals? Here's the thing you should consider. There's a good chance your mother-in-law loves cooking for your family. This is her way to express how she cares, and it makes her feel useful. However, if you don't find a way to tactfully approach the situation, you risk really hurting her. Maybe you can pitch meal suggestions that your daughter likes, and she and her grandmother can work on them together, or alternate weeks like some families do. Am I the jerk for not attending my best friend's wedding? My friend, who is a 27-year-old female, asked me, who is a 28-year-old female, to be one of her bridesmaids for her wedding. She was my maid of honor 2 years ago, and before that, we had always said we would be each other's maid of honor. We have been friends for 20 years. When she asked me to be a bridesmaid, it stung a bit, to be honest, but seeing as she has a twin sister that she is close to, it made sense that she should be her maid of honor. The issue I really had with this is that at one point, before I did barely anything as a bridesmaid, she told me, "You don't have to stand with the other bridesmaids during the wedding." I found it weird that she was saying that, but I replied, "No, I want to be there with all of you." After a bit of back and forth, she admitted she doesn't want me standing there with everyone because of my fear of being the center of attention and my social anxiety. She was worried that I would have a panic attack just like I did standing there at my own wedding. Honestly, it was bad during my wedding because I was shaking and couldn't breathe, and everyone's terrified reaction made it even worse for me. I had to leave and come back to just me, my husband, and my mother to continue our vows while everyone else moved on to the reception. I couldn't even join them until I was drunk enough to not feel embarrassed. I've been to therapy since then and have made huge progress regarding my social anxiety, and my best friend knows this. I felt hurt that she didn't trust me enough to let me stand with the others. I told her I was much calmer and less anxious now, and I wouldn't even be the center of attention like I was when I was the bride. She said she acknowledged my improvement but just didn't want to take chances. She said she doesn't want to embarrass me again, and that she would just feel worried about me the whole time, and was also worried that I would ruin the mood of the wedding if I did happen to have a panic attack. I eventually told her that I'd rather be a guest if I can't do all the bridesmaid duties. On the day of her wedding, I was so sick to my stomach with hurt and sadness that I was merely going as a guest to her wedding that I decided not to go because I felt so left out. Now she is very mad at me for making her feel bad at her wedding. She thinks I was trying to hurt her and make her feel guilty because of what she thinks was a reasonable request. I didn't mean to hurt her, but I just couldn't go because I was overwhelmed with hurt. The people I've talked to are all divided on who is at fault in this situation. I feel bad for ruining her mood on her wedding day, but I still feel what she asked of me was hurtful. Am I the asshole in this situation? You have done things to make me think you were the jerk here, OP. Are you aware that you basically proved her point? She was worried that your emotions would get the best of you, and that's exactly what happened. While you might have made some progress, it doesn't seem like you're as far removed from your struggles as you think. It's her wedding, and she was just trying to minimize the stress and include you, so supporting her should have been the priority. Am I the jerk for not taking the time to talk to my parent? I, a 26-year-old female, have a very fractured relationship with my 53-year-old mother. It has been very difficult, and I honestly do not have much time for her these days. When I gave birth to my daughter, my mother was there to help me, but she was constantly overstepping boundaries and acting like a mother rather than a grandmother. It felt like she was projecting. She would make appointments without telling me. She would dictate who my daughter could and could not see. She would make me go out to run errands rather than be at home with my child. Her justification was that because she was my mother, I had to listen to her, and her decisions ruled the house. It all boiled over when I was 23 in 2021 amidst COVID lockdowns. I decided I had enough, and my friends helped me leave the house with my daughter. I did not tell my mother since I was 23 years old and had the right to leave. She called the police on me when she saw me loading my car and packing my and my daughter's things. The police let us go because my daughter was not in any danger, nor could they really stop me from taking my own daughter elsewhere. A month later, I received a call from a lawyer saying that my child was going to be taken away, and there was nothing I could do at that point. It turned out my mother went to court and got an order to have my child taken from me. It was full of I think, and I believe statements about me but no actual evidence, and they deemed it enough to just take my 3-year-old away. I spent a solid 2 years trying to get full custody of my child back, which I mostly have now. My daughter goes with her grandmother each fortnight and for a week of school holidays. My mother is adamant that she was doing me a favor and that she was completely in the right. She talks to me as if nothing is wrong. Now, my mother is always sending messages and acting as if she did not take 2 years of my daughter's youth and 2 years of time with my child away. She is always telling me about her problems, and I just ignore it 95% of the time. I do not have time for it, and I do not think I will ever actually forgive her for what she took and what she did. The contact I make is mostly to do with pickups and drop-offs of my daughter, with an occasional explanation of sickness, etc. Other than that, it is radio silence. Am I the asshole? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here at all. It sounds like she's a narcissist and is being incredibly abusive, manipulative, and self-centered. It's really messed up, and it's important to be very careful in dealing with her. This kind of behavior is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for asking my partner for quality time? My husband, who is 28 years old, and I, who am 25 years old, have been married for nearly 2 years. We have an almost 8-month-old daughter. He is self-employed with off days on Friday and Sunday. On workdays, he gets home at 9 or 10 p.m., eats, showers, and sleeps. On his days off, he wakes up at 7 a.m., watches some YouTube videos, and by 10 a.m., he leaves to chill with his friends, returning around 10 p.m. Meanwhile, I take care of the baby and handle all the chores, including hand-washing laundry. By the time he comes home, I am too exhausted to think straight. I've asked him numerous times to spend one day a week for us to bond, but he ignores my pleas. He often eats breakfast in his car to avoid being late to see his friends. Whenever I bring up the issue, he accuses me of not appreciating his efforts for the family. I affirm him daily, even when he brings small things like a lollipop. Being unemployed, I try to appreciate him by cooking his favorite meals. Even if he gets off work early during the week, he drops his tools and leaves to see his friends. Because of recent protests in Kenya, he came home early but left shortly after. Despite my hopes for some rest due to my cramps and ulcer pain, he drove off to his friends. I told him I wouldn't accept a miserable marriage and that he's pushing me away. He told me to do what I want. As a cesarean section mom, he never spent a full day with me. When I was too sick to hold our baby, he stayed with his friends despite my pleas for help. I've tried to enjoy our marriage but have grown bitter. I'm mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausted. My feelings for him are fading, and I avoid sex because I don't enjoy it and often fake it. His mother advised me to appreciate his financial support and mentioned that he isn't violent, but it feels like he wants me to worship him for paying rent and buying groceries and diapers. Returning home isn't an option because my dad doesn't want a divorced child in his house. I suspect my husband might be seeing someone else and pushing me away to make it look like I chose to leave. He doesn't eat my meals when he comes back from seeing his friends. My mental health is suffering, and despite applying for jobs, I haven't received any responses. It feels like God is silent. I have gained weight from baby weight and stress eating. In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. You deserve better, and it's time to make a plan to get out, however long it takes. Look for friends, relatives, or charities that can help you get on your feet. Don't resign yourself to this situation. Your mental health comes first. Am I the jerk for going against my parents by moving out of state for a master's program? My parents have always had a say in my schooling, from high school to where I went for college. I made a deal with my mom at 17 years old, saying that if I stayed home for undergraduate studies, I could go anywhere I wanted for graduate school, fully aware that I would be paying for it. I, a 22-year-old female, am registered for a graduate program for this fall. My parents are completely against the idea of me moving out of state for school, even though this master's program will help me achieve my dream career. I have tried everything to reason with them, but neither of them is budging. I have signed a lease agreement behind their backs, which I am not proud of. They know about it now and have started to look at the classes I need to register for. The reason they are against me moving to this specific state is because of a man I used to talk to. He told my mom that he was thinking about moving back there for work, and she is very against me even being friends with him. Her reason is completely ridiculous and highly judgmental. I feel bad for going behind their backs and continuing to work towards being set up for this fall semester. I have figured out how to get to this state, as it is 7 hours away from where I live. I do not need their financial help and have only begged for their emotional support in this, as I am an only child and do not want my parents to think I am leaving them in the dark. I am not sure what to do with this whole situation, and I truly do not want to miss this opportunity to do this master's program. My parents, more specifically my mother, have threatened to take me off health insurance, take away the car I drive so I can go to work this summer, and even cut me off completely if I were to move out. I have never gone against my parents before, so I am very nervous about this. That is why I turned to Reddit for advice from parents and adult children who have gone through this situation before and if, in the end, it all worked out. Thank you. Your parents are unfortunately struggling to let you live your life and be independent. They might not like you moving for several reasons, but it is what you want for your future. I feel like they are used to you being compliant with every decision they make, and now they are trying to cut you off from everything because you are making decisions on your own. It's high time you started living your life. Cut the cord. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.